Rachel Bevilacqua, and we're on week 4 of our 8-week series. Last week we went over behavior change. In particular, we went over pause techniques and working on accountability when we're anxious or depressed. This week we're going to look at another third of our entire experience, which is our thoughts. So a couple weeks ago we went over how much control we have over our thoughts, and we identified that 50% of our thoughts are out of our control. Those are our automatic thoughts, and the other 50% is how we respond to them. A lot of times we're not aware that we have that power to respond to thoughts, so these automatic thoughts, they feel out of control, but they also feel real. And so one thing that we're going to work on today is how can I maybe re-examine to see if those automatic thoughts are actually reality. So we're going to go over a couple of different ways to respond. There's tons of different ways of calling these. There's a lot of different names, so that's not really what we're trying to focus on. We're trying to focus on what's the substance within that. So the way that we respond to our thoughts, we want to make sure that they're either helping us check reality to see if this is really what's happening, maybe change our perspective, or try to make it more goal-directed. When we have automatic thoughts, a lot of times they stop us from doing things, so we want to make sure, remember, our goal is to change our experience, so to start doing more things and convince ourselves that we can. So a couple of the ones we're going to go over today is refuting negative thoughts, reframing, and redirection. So let's say that you have an automatic thought that says, I'm always a failure. Say you failed a test, and so I'm always a failure, and you're just really down on yourself. Refuting the negative thought, or by using evidence seeking, would be trying to find some type of evidence that disproves that automatic thought. One thing just to kind of pay attention to is only if the automatic thought makes you feel uncomfortable do we really want to look at it. A lot of times you're not going to look at one if it feels okay. So this is why I'm just focusing on negative thoughts, just so we're all on the same page. So again, the automatic thought is I'm always a failure in response to failing a test. Evidence seeking might look like I haven't failed every test, right? So identifying that there were a couple times that you didn't fail a test, so that always is automatically not true anymore. If we're talking about reframing or changing your perspective, you might say something like, I failed a test, but I'm not a failure. You don't have to have that label on you just because of a test or maybe multiple tests. That doesn't equal that I'm a failure. When it comes to redirection or visualization, that's something that you would use more so for intrusive thoughts. So if you've tried to evaluate evidence and you've tried to reframe and change your perspective, and the thought just keeps on cycling, and then next thing you know, you're not going to work, you're not engaging. This is kind of when visualization might come in handy. So basically what visualization is picturing the experience as you're expecting it to be. So if you're worried about failing or messing something up at work, you might want to visualize what work's going to look like. So really walk yourself through that experience. It's a type of guided imagery, so if you want to look that up to understand that a little bit more, there's YouTube videos on that. But basically what we would do here is imagine what's work look like, and the more that we can actually walk through it at home, maybe in a calm body state, then we kind of are already familiar with what that's going to look like. So when we go to work and we start feeling overwhelmed, we kind of already know what it might feel like to be calmer. And so that's what we're basically doing when we're talking about visualization or redirection. One thing I want to make sure that we're working on this week is identifying what automatic thoughts we might be having. If they're uncomfortable, they're typically negative, so I want you guys to go home and look up unhelpful thinking styles. There's about 10 of them. You might find less, you might find more, but I want you to see which ones on that list you identify with, because if you're understanding what the thought is, it's more in your awareness, and if it's more in my awareness, I could do something with it. Also, you can look up any of these on Google as well. You might have more of an explanation, but that's just kind of a quick overview. And then next week, we're going to look more about what can we do with our feelings. I'll see you next week.